I'm back. And it is Sunday. Didn't get to record again yesterday. I had to do some different things. I put a roof over the door of my storage building because I was having to keep the door covered because it was raining there. If it really blew really hard, and being it's coming up to winter, I just went ahead and built a roof over it, like a shed, over the door of my shed. Did that and went and bought groceries and things like that yesterday, so I didn't get to do another session. So I'm kind of trying to figure out where I was. Refreshed this a couple of times. My live session stayed up. I went ahead yesterday and pushed after I finished splitting it up. I went ahead and pushed. Oh no, this is not it. This is the net sim I did that I ended up looking back at to see how I had split a JavaScript project into multiple files before. If I had paid attention to that when I first started, that video would have been much shorter. Where is... I can't remember the name of Solitude. Now it shows the JavaScript component of it, which is kind of vain, but you know, it's mainly JavaScript. And I think it's probably like only 33%, maybe, because let's see, how many lines is this? How many lines is this card? HTML. Oh, it's 87 lines, and then the longest JavaScript file is 162 lines. I don't know if this is how it counts it, but I think for sure a part of what's doing it is these 365 lines in there. What I'm going to do is I am going to download this. Just keep a how do I do this? Let's go to, well, you know what, why am I doing that at all? Why am I doing that at all? I can just go into Finder, and I'm just going to keep a copy of the old file. Why I feel like that's a good idea, I don't know. I just feel like it's good to have a working version, because I'm about to really do some pretty deep, which, you know, splitting up into multiple files was a pretty deep change. But I'm about to, why am I doing this even? Why don't I just use terminal? Could have been done. Sometimes you feel like the graphical is easier. Go into documents. Where am I? I'm already in there. I'm gonna go to documents, GitHub, Solitude. I'm gonna copy. First, I'm gonna well, yeah, I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna copy the old file over into into there. That way I have a copy of the old file. Alright, cool. And then what I'm going to do is to delete it. I'm going to delete it locally. I'm going to delete it locally. I'm still in there. I'm going to delete that, and then I can do a quick push to just to just get rid of that. I could have just deleted it here and then pulled from there by like doing everything from here. Because the next thing I need to do is add a readme. I guess I could do that and just pull. And then that, the whole kind of main reason for that is because that then updates it to show that it's mainly a JavaScript project. You never know when this might be useful. I don't know, career-wise. Programming is not my career, but I wanted to accurately represent the work I'm doing here. So, now that I've procrastinated in avoidance of the pain of continuing to work here, let's dig into what we need to do. I need to try to start introducing some interaction into the game. Right now, all we have is the data model of it set up, and cards are dealt when I refresh. Cards are dealt when the page loads, basically. And so we set up a game of solitaire. We set up the tableau. Right now, we have no way to manipulate it at all. I don't want it to be a graphical game. That was never the intention. Really, I think I'm going to do a version of this where I get rid of even all of this and just have some text on the screen. You know, it was supposed to be something simple like that or something. So I'm not going to implement. I could easily just add click listeners, I guess, on some of these. And just have it where I can click here, select that, and decide to move it there. Or click there and then move whatever. Could do that, but I want to do something different. Something I remembered from yesterday. I didn't like having this object rely on having constructing a new initializer, like as it, and passing itself in as it was being constructed. I don't know why that, you run into conflicts like that in Java. If you, in the constructor, if you are constructing an object and it then relies on another object to be constructed that simultaneously relies on the object you're trying to construct, the original object, like basically trying to pass yourself in to another object to construct it. You can't do that, because if this is in the constructor, then this object is not fully constructed yet, and so you can't pass yourself to it. This feels like that. It's not, because in JavaScript, I mean, it doesn't work that way. This is not a constructor. The object is, I guess, constructed as like a generic object, and then these things happen. So I don't think it just passes a reference to that object, I guess. But it just felt weird because of that. And I wanted to fix that in some way. What I realized, I felt like I couldn't do that, because when I come out here, until I realized that this was how I could bring all those other files into scope, I didn't have a way to do that. But then as soon as I finished the other video, I thought about it and realized that I could just do it like this, being that I have initializer out here. Now, initializer, even though it needs a game object, it is not, nothing happens when you construct the object, because nothing gets called here. All of these are just methods that are for utility to be used later. When you construct it, it's just an object. Like, nothing happens. Same thing with solitaire data for all intents. Until you call init game, nothing really happens. So what I could do is to get rid of this, and then just I could take initializer and have it be a thing that's passed in. What does that do? Initializer. Initializer. Yeah, there we go. I could just have it be a thing that's passed in, and construct it out here as a separate object. But then I would run into that same conflict that initializer needs. That I could do it like, var init equals new init, and then I would basically pass it SD like that. And then it would of course go after this. You have to have solitaire data, but then I ran into that relationship where solitaire data needs init, and so that was kind of the best way to do it, was that to leave it where it was, because the two kind of like rely on each other. The organization that I had was kind of the best way to do it, was just like this, and then realize that this isn't a constructor. I talked a lot about that when I was kind of thinking about it. So again, more procrastination. Let's see. So what I'm thinking about for my interaction with this game is I'm imagining, actually, there was a book I read about, it was called The Friendly Orange Glow. I never type an E on the end of the Friendly Orange Glow. Brian Deere. It's a book about the development and kind of the story of the Plato system, which was a computer system, I think, that got its start like in the late 1960s, but was like in its heyday in the 1970s. That was like way beyond its time. It was kind of like a time sharing system, but that was for like learning and training. It was, I think it started in a school. I don't know if it was the University of Illinois or Michigan. I can't remember where it was. But it's the most amazing book, just about these people that were really into computing in the early days, and some of the pioneers of computing that were influenced by it. I think Larry Ellison was someone that was influenced by it. I think that was one of the people in there. It's just an amazing book. But the Friendly Orange Glow refers to, in this kind of font here, refers to the Plato system actually had a touch screen like in the 1970s, and it used some sort of gas. I can't remember what the gas was in the screen, and that the color of the screen or what have you came from that. But this was a really famous aspect of the Plato system, was this color scheme or whatever. And I don't know, playing this game here, the games that were available on it play a big role in the book, and were played a big role in the system. The system was never like, it never got it was kind of an underground sort of thing, almost. For as big as it was kind of an underground sort of thing. And it's not, in all the books I've read about computer history, I'm really, into computer history. I'm not a buff or anything like that, but I've read a lot about it. You never hear about the Plato system in those. My most favorite book of all time, which is Hackers, Creators of the Computer Revolution, the original version. I think there's an updated version or whatever by so even in that book, it didn't show up. Hold on, let me take a quick pause. I've returned. My wife was having a problem with the dryer, So she texted me because I'm blocked in here. um, but the book is Hackers. It's like a fairly well-known book in the computer history world. Well, I have the internet. Why am I trying to think of the name of the author? Hackers. Book. Heroes of the Computer Revolution. This is the new Stephen Levy, yeah, which is one of my favorite authors on computer stuff, computer history anyway. Well, that book, and then he has another book about artificial life, and then he did a book about Apple, which wasn't as popular at all, but it was interesting. But it's not even mentioned in that. The Plato system isn't, and so this book, The Friendly Orange Glow, talks about it, and it's just really just an amazing book. It makes me want to said all that because it just makes me want to take this and turn it into that, which wouldn't take much, I don't guess. I could come in and change the background color of the play area to black. And I guess it actually has lost its connection. If I go ahead and kill it and try and restart it, this always sucks. I can do that and then change the border color to some sort of orange color or something. I'm gonna go ahead and just close this window. Let's see. Will it find it? This always ends in just this long wait and nothing happening. I'm just gonna go ahead and close Chrome. Let it get open. I think there's another instance of Chrome open somewhere, which may be the problem. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of Chrome completely, and then let it launch it from scratch. But it makes me want to do that. I've always wanted to do a project in some way that like paid homage to that. There's actually, you can connect to this sort of, I don't know if it's an emulation of the Plato system. I can't remember where. I got an account and everything. But you can actually still connect to an instance of the Plato system and play around with it. Let's see. So make that black. And then make the font color. I'm doing this on play area. What orange colors do I have? Dark orange. Doing it on the font color because on the play area, because it's the parent of everything, so it trickles down. What I can then do is come into initializer that sets everything up and change the font color of, because I'm manually setting that there. I can set that like that. That does that, and then I can do my borders. This is not supposed to be graphical, but I'm doing it anyway. I can set my borders. Where is my border set? It's on container. I can set my border to 1 pixel solid dark orange. Like that. And there. It's interesting. Let's see. I'm gonna get a one cool thing that brackets has is I can use hex colors. What it's red, green, blue. FFF is white. So I can like do I'm trying to make I thought, if I'm not mistaken, I guess it just pops up a preview of the color. I thought it had like a actual color thing. I want to use W3 Schools color picker. I can actually design colors. I'm trying to make a dark orange, like a darker orange, I guess. I guess if it was a legit Play-Doh system though, it wouldn't have any nuanced colors like that. So I'll just I can just get rid of this there and just leave it as that. And then the pile, same thing. I can get rid of that background color. And there we have it. I could also I also need to another text about the dryer. It appears to be, it's like a brand new dryer, but it's a cheapo one, and it's having some struggles. All right, so I need to come to the play area and change the font so that it'll hear it down. I'm going to say font family, the mono space. Yeah. So that's cool. It's cool. Right? I need to change this from the same play area, I guess, to saying solitaire. Right? That's okay. I'm gonna make this waste. Because the I think the Hoyle book calls it the waste pile, or was that the bicycle cards that was called the waste pile? Something called it the waste pile. Oh, something I'm seeing there. Hey, this is my game, so it's a little cheat. The 4s and 5s are still the diamonds and hearts are still red, but it's my game. It's not a Play-Doh system. It's just kind of in that style. So I like that. Something else I could do is to make put a little radius, border radius, which I don't know how to use. I'm just gonna make all the borders. I'm gonna give it like 10 pixels. Yeah. Let's make the I don't know if I like them thicker. I was trying to make it look a little bit more low res. Let's do a lesser radius. Yeah, that's better. The 1 pixel, I guess, is okay. I like the 2. Whatever. That's not a big deal. More procrastination. But what this does, though, is it brings me a little bit closer to thinking about my input. So that inspires me. So I think I can just put a text box in here to be able to input. I think I'm going to do it like with, and this is the idea that I was kind of playing around with. I'm just going to do it to input text commands. It's my game. Yeah, just a margin. I'll move this closer, and then I'm going to put a margin at the bottom. Margin bottom. Give it a little more space. Right. And I'm going to put a text box down here and kind of put a little command interface there, where we'll enter commands. My reasoning for thinking about that is that obviously it wasn't supposed to be graphical, so I'm not going to have drag and drop or whatever, or clicking. My reason is I feel like if I'm like taking commands in and parsing them, it'll make it easier to design the interaction, because they can just be kind of like in the interactions can be separated out into a separate object that's like a command processor. Because that what's making me think of that is what I did on my little network simulator thing that I was doing one time. What I did was I simulated I don't know if I have any pictures of it actually running. I simulated a little command line window, and what I had was I had which I never finished this, but I had a class, basically an object that had a reference to the command window, and it actually took in all the only commands I ever implemented was a help command that would print out a usage message, like in say Unix or Linux or whatever. But when the command came in, it would parse it. And it would look through the command tree, and the command tree is just basically a basic JavaScript object that would have the commands in there. It would look at it, and each command pointed to a function that would set this out buffer, which is basically just a string. It would set it to that, and that gets put out. That gets printed to the screen. Output. It just sends out the out buffer or whatever. What I wanted to do there was have it this little tokenizer, which I don't know if it rises to the level of an actual tokenizer, but what it would do is it uses a split method to split up each word, and then in this tree basically under this each thing, if you said help, then there were certain things that could come after that, or if you said another command, it was going to be like context aware, in the sense that there would be certain things that you could then say if you said, if your first token was a specific command, it goes into the context of that token, and there's a list of other things that you could say and whatever. And I kind of see that being relevant here. If I want to move a card, let's say, is there any play that I can do here? Yeah, for example, the ace. I can start a foundation with an ace. Okay. So, or for example, here's another one with the queen. I can take an opposite color suit. This would be a black suit. This would be a red suit. I can take this and I can play this in descending order. I can put this queen on top of this king, or I could move this ace to one of the foundations. Right. So the command might be, I could say a column number. I could say column 4. I could say, or I could just type the name of the card. I could type Queen Spades, because each card is unique. No two cards are the same. I can say queen, spade. Right, I'm thinking of like forming like sentences. I could say queen, spade, two, heart, king. No two things on here should be the same, so there should be no context like confusion. Queen, spade to heart, king, and have a function look at what the available cards are here. Let's say that I've made some plays. Let's say that I've moved this queen to this king, and so now it's king of hearts, queen of spades, and then this is exposed. But these two would be exposed if I then tried to say, I don't know, an invalid move. Another valid move at that point would be if I said queen spades to king hearts, being that this is an opposite suit. I could say 10 diamonds to queen spades, which would be here, and that could continue. However, if I tried to say, because both of these are exposed, the queen and the king, if I tried to say 10 diamond to king hearts, because it's not the top card, it could respond invalid move. It could only look at the available card to play on top of, let's say. So I could do that. That's what I'm thinking about doing right now. The problem becomes I've never played solitaire before. I don't know if this is like a valid way to do it. I just picked this game because I was thinking about card games or whatever, something that was non-graphical and turn-based. I'd gotten into looking at roguelike games, turn-based games in that way. And I made a little roguelike, a little play on a roguelike game in here. Knots, the name, it started off as tic-tac-toe. I made tic-tac-toe, and then I found out about roguelikes, and I made a little play on that. I think of it as Knots and Crosses, and it's basically a roguelike that's basically like a little shoot 'em up. You're the @ symbol like in Rogues, and you have different challenges. I only ever made one stage, and there's this X that goes across like shooting. You have objects. The R is a rifle, the M is a landmine, and you can shoot. But when you pick those things up, you get those. The R gets you the ability to shoot, so I can't shoot until I get the rifle. But in this challenge, the best way to defeat the X, is to use the landmine, because you notice that the pattern is just the same. Use the landmine and set it there. But you can also get the rifle and just, try your luck to come in and shoot it. But, be careful because you can get killed or whatever. This is the first time I ever kind of just took it on myself to try to. I got interested in the roguelike thing, and I was really proud of this one. This is the first real game I ever made. I was so proud of myself. That was earlier this year when we first went on lockdown. It was kind of a project for work. At that time, I was working with teaching computer science concepts to students in high school. And I wrote this as a project. I have another GitHub. I think I have 3 GitHubs. I have another GitHub where I put this up as like a project with, the code like commented and everything for kids to be able to emulate. I did an email that went out or whatever to teachers or whatnot. I don't know if anyone ever did anything with it very much, but I was really proud of this, written in Java. I think that was probably the most code I've ever written at one go. It was a part of the whole work from home pressure or whatnot that you get. You're at home and you're really comfortable. I just felt like I really needed to be working like hard on something, so I did that. But it reminds me of kind of going about it in kind of an old school. That was how I got into turn-based games, and the idea of card games came into my mind. So I think that's what I want to do. All right. So to do that, I'm gonna need to put in a text area. Let's see. I'm gonna come down to the bottom. That's my play area, so I'll extend down the play area basically. I'm gonna make another page division. I'm gonna call this is gonna be command box. I'm gonna give it the class container. Container. And I'm gonna have its width. Okay, that's that. But inside it, I'm gonna put a text box. A text box is an input. What are the attributes I can put on an input? I think type. Is there not a type? Text, yeah. I need to go to W3 because I can't remember really what how to deal with text boxes, because there's some attributes you have to put in there to be able to get the stuff out of it. Input types, input type text. Okay. Yeah, the form, which I don't think I would have to worry about so much, like the because when you get into forms, like from the little projects I've done in PHP in the past, you get into when you submit a form and having a submit button or whatever, the functions or whatnot that you want to run to be able to deal with the input that you actually put in. So this is the input type text, ID, fname, name, fname. Those things, ID and name, or the name for sure you can use for getting the data from it, I think. So I don't know how much of that is necessary, and I don't know if I need to put this in a form. I don't think so. Not for what I'm doing. I don't think so. Maybe best to. I don't know. Let me just put it in a form. I don't think I have to, because I'm. Let me see. Let's say form, because I think this only really comes. The form, I think, is just a container. I think it only really comes in if I was going to do something like input type text ID command name command. I have to remember what all this stuff is for. I'll give it a label. Simply a label. So it'll be for command, and it'll be command. I'll let it be next to it. I won't put the line break there. Let's see what that did. Yeah, that's cool enough. want it in all caps. Do I want it in all caps? Solitaire up there at the top is not in all caps. Does it make it feel more old school when it's in all caps? Yeah, it does. Alright. But then all the words are not in all caps. Whatever. Okay. That's that. I think that I can style this. Let's see. Command. Background color. I don't know if this is black. Yeah. Border. Now I see that it's got that kind of inset style on it. I think it's like border style. None. And then can I just give it border 1 pix solid dark orange. Yeah. All right, so that gives me a nice old school. Let's see, the text that goes in it. I think I set with color. Let's see. Color dark orange. Yeah. Okay. And I guess I have to change the font family. Can I just say inherit? Yeah. Because the parent is that. Okay. So this is editable. Right. That's one thing I learned as I was doing that little project that I did to make a command prompt window. It's actually like weirder than I set out to do it, and I didn't know I thought I would just do like a big text area, but the problem became you know, in a text area, which is basically a multi-line text box, you can just hit, when you hit enter, you just go to the next line or whatever. What I ended up having to do, was it's kind of cool, was that it ended up being basically just a stack of text boxes on top of each other. Why do I keep clicking on the... It ended up being a stack of text boxes on top of each other, whereas the actual buffer is it. It ended up being like an array of text boxes, of spans. Yeah, that's what I used. It ended up being an array of spans that I generate. Where did I generate it at? It's been a while ago. When did I do this? This is over a year ago. This is my other account. This is over a year ago. Wow, I can't believe it's been that long. Either way, it's just an array of span elements. Init buffer, yeah. It ends up being an array of span elements just stacked on top of each other. Yeah, here it is. Build buffer. And I create a bunch of spans and I set them to display block, which makes them take up the whole horizontal space, like a paragraph element. And then I set them to non-break, the inner text inside of them, I set to a non-breaking space to keep it from collapsing. So that there's actually some text in there, or else what would happen is the whole thing would collapse because there's nothing there. And then I take that and append it to the actual DOM in whatever way. So that was where I found out about the content editable, because which we didn't have to do that there because we're using an actual input. I can't remember what stopped me from using input or whatever. I don't know. And I wonder if that's about to become relevant or not. Let me change the border radius to, what was it, 5 pixels. Yeah. I can't remember if that's about to become relevant or not. Relevant or not. Because now I have this. Now, I need to be able to get, I need to be able to submit this. I need to be able to submit this. So when you hit enter, yeah, when you hit enter, I need something to happen. So this goes back to JavaScript. And now this gets into the new, basically the new class that I'm going to have to build, the new object that's going to be, that's going to need to take over when the game starts. Basically at this point right here, after refresh runs this first time, in the code that this is the code that initializes the whole game. It sets everything off. It's initialized all the variables, set up the data structure, shuffled the cards, built the card deck, shuffled the cards, dealt the cards, and displayed it all on screen. And now control needs to pass to both the player to prompt them to begin playing, and to some aspect, some controller, some aspect of the game to listen for when changes happen in here, which indicate that the player has made some sort of a move and it needs to respond. So we're basically at that point now. We have our input interface. It is there. And I want to run. I want to run away. Okay. So now the game is actually going. Let's define this module. At times like this, I get really concerned about the way things look. I want to play around with the interface more. Let's see. What do I need to do? I want to set the width of this to, let's see, what, 60. Oh no. But yeah, that is true though, because the commands will be a little longer. I want to set the width of the whole box though. What is that container? Oh, that container is called command box. I'm gonna do it above this. Command box. I want to set the width of that. Width 60% of its, no, 80% of its parent, and then margin 0. Oh, put it in the middle, and then step up the width of this to 80%. Yeah, that's like that. All right, so let's define this object. What will this be? I'm just going to give the name here. I will be creating, I will say, because for all intents, let's just call it var gm equals new game master. And then what will I pass it? But the data model, I'll pass it the data model and the display. Does it need both of them? It would need to be able to know, what is it gonna do? Yeah, what is it gonna do? It's gonna take the commands, it's gonna process the commands. It's gonna process the no, another object needs to process the command. No, we could make two objects. Say var CP equals new command processor. And what would it need? It would need access only. It would only need access to what? Command processor. Okay, that gets at a issue in that this is defined right now. It's hard-coded into the HTML. Neither solitaire data nor anything else, everything in this script tag, it basically exists in separate files. None of it knows anything about this. It only knows solitaire, not solitaire data, data display only knows about the things that it generated. Data display generated all this. So it knows about these columns and the 19 paragraph elements that are inside. It knows about those. It doesn't know anything else about like this title that's up here or play area. It doesn't know anything about any of that stuff. So it doesn't know anything about this input. Whatever is going to process the commands, it needs to know about the inputs. It needs to know about this because it's going to have access to it. So either I'm going to have to define command processor here, or I'm going to have to do some setup to be able to pass into command processor what's coming out of here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to grab that input. I'm going to do a I'm going to say command line. I just need to get something out. I'm going to say cmd equals get equals document dot get element by ID, and I'm going to give it command. Alright, that gives us a reference to that box. Okay. That could be enough. I could then just pass that into command processor and let it, because what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to add a key listener so that when enter is pressed, it will snatch all the text out of there. Yeah, I'm going to do that. And then I'm just going to pass this command. No, CMD, because that's the reference of it. So I'm going to pass that into command processor. Now, still, I need to figure out the nature of game master. What will game master do? Game master will have a reference to the data and the display, and is going to need a reference to the command processor, because when a command is parsed, the result of that command is going to have to tell it what to do, how to manipulate, because at this point we don't have anything arbitrating between the two. Well, wait a minute. Data display. Hold on, what does data display do? Data display in refresh. Yes, now. So data display does have a reference to each one of these things. Okay. So game master would have to instruct. Well, no, I would need to build in the functionality. The only thing I have right now in data display is the ability to refresh the tableau, which this is fine. This stands fine. All it does is look at what's in the data tableau and then just draw that. That's all it does. That's literally all it does. As evidenced by the fact, let's test that theory. Because if I'm not mistaken, what I should be able to do with the console in Chrome, I could say dd dot refresh. What does that do? It says that's undefined. It sees the method. If I say dd, it's data display. It has that function refresh. Let's see. Could I do this? Could I go into what? SD dot tableau. Let's go into the first column. I'm gonna say the first thing. The first column and the first thing there. It's the only thing there. And it shows that it's that. I'm gonna change it. Dot. I'm gonna say dot dot is face up equals false. And then I'm gonna say dd dot refresh. And it kills it. Right? So all this does, it didn't change anything else. All this does right now is go in here and look at what's there, and it renders it on screen. So this is fine. What I need to do in refresh is to add the ability to be able to refresh these. And that's all data display needs to do. So that indicates that something needs to make the changes to solitaire data. And that's where game master comes in. All game master will need to do with data display, it will need a reference to get data display, it appears. It will need a reference to it. But all it needs to do is to, for data display, is to trigger refresh. Okay, I just have to implement some, so I'm going to go back here and I'm going to change this back to true. And I'm going to refresh it again and it's back. Okay, so that's cool to know. So back in cars.html, it will need a reference to solitaire data. And the way, okay, let's say the game state changes. Command processor, game master will need a list of okay. Would that a list of manipulation operations. Game Master will need a list of manipulation operations. Or would those need to go into solitaire data? Solitaire data is the model, basically. If we're talking about, I have it stuck in my head. Model view controller. Solitaire data is the model. Does the model make its own changes? Let's look at it. As it appears right now, all it can do is initialize itself using the utility functions. And so, yes, it would appear it would. What I would add would be, okay, the game gets set up by these functions dealing the cards. So in initializer, I could add more utility functions. I could add more utility functions that then that's initializer. I guess I could create manipulator. I don't know. That then play the game. Or I could define those inside here. I could make a class that says run, and then inside of it, inside of it, when commands return from command processor, Game Master will call solitaire data dot build foundation, right? And pass it a card to put onto a foundation. And if there's an error, if there's an invalid, I'll need an output here. An output box that can output messages to say invalid input or whatever, because nothing will happen. Command processor will return invalid. And game command. Okay, I could hand that to command processor. I could also put an output box here. Okay. I'm thinking out loud like this, just kind of theorizing, because I can go back and this is like documentation, it's like dictation. I can go back and watch this video if I need to remember what I was thinking, because there's a lot of things that are kind of having to be built just kind of out in the open. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a span element, and I'm going to give it the ID. I'm going to give it the ID output message. Let's see, I'm going to say command, just to give that semantic relationship. Command output, because maybe we want to put output successful messages as well. By default, it'll have a non-breaking space. I can't remember what that does. I think it keeps it from collapsing or allows you to be able to style it or something. I can't remember. But what I want to do also is I'm going to give it a class. I'm going to give it a class of well, creating a class. I think that this will be the only invisible thing, so I can just style it with the ID and then come up for a command output, because I need to style it. Let me go ahead and give it some text so I can see it. Output. Oh, well, that looks fine. Can I set that to all caps just all the time? Command output. Text style. Let's see, is that a thing? I just thought about that. CSS all caps. Is that a thing? I know I could do it in JavaScript. Text transform uppercase. Okay. Text transform. Yeah. Uppercase. Cool. So I'll put it like that. I'm gonna say margin top to give it a little space on the top. I'm gonna say 0.2 em. Is that getting registered? What's happening? Command output. Oh, I got an error. Yeah, I know. Same thing on the next line. It's not registering that. I don't know why. Doesn't matter. It's not important. Okay, but that gives me that. So I have that that I can output to. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to pass. So command processor will have that. And then I'm also going to grab var cmd out equals document get command output, and then I'm going to pass it cmd and cmd out, so it'll have those two. Okay, so now I can define, so command processor will pull the text out of that text box, parse it, yield a command to pass to game master. Game master will then talk directly to the data model, which will have methods to be able to manipulate itself. So that says to me that this needs to be initialized after this, because it's going to have to get a reference to SD. Okay. And the only reason these two things are getting passed in is because they exist in this context, in the context of the HTML. And so they have to have, they have to be basically collected and passed into these other objects that don't have access to this, because I'm going to define them in other files. And so now, you end up with a lot of files here, but it makes each file much cleaner in that their context is encapsulated. And that's what I like. So I'm going to define a file named game master.js, and I'm going to define a file named command processor.js. The name doesn't matter in JavaScript. And then I'm going to define it. It's going to be command processor, and it will accept inside it here. I'm going to just give these simple names. Data. No, I'm sorry. It's going to accept CMD line, command line. Let's say command text box. I'm just going to call it text box because that's what it is. That describes it better. Text box. message box, and then master or controller. I like that. I like that. That's descriptive. Okay, those will be the things, the way they'll be referred to in there. It'll be the text box, the message box, and then the controller. Then the data. No. Okay. No. It won't speak to data. It will speak to GM. Yeah. It will speak to the controller, the game master. Alright. The game master, on the other hand, will be equally kind of, hopefully I can call this elegant. Game master. It will be receiving data and a display. That's it. That's nice and clean. Alright, so that puts us kind of on our way. Initializer, it's kind of cool that initializer just ended up being that, just initialization functions, because I'm going to put the data model manipulation functions inside the data model itself. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put in some useful comments here so that I don't lose my train of thought. To kind of describe what I just thought about, because I'm about to take a break, because I want to come back and give a good run at this, and my back is starting to knot up. I started exercising a little bit when I did some weightlifting. I go on and off and on and off and on and off of weightlifting, and I did some weightlifting, and I think I didn't do any. I never had a pain like while I was lifting or whatnot, but in the day or so following, I started developing this knot in the left side of my back. So I have to take breaks here. So I want to describe what I'm thinking here. I'm going to put it above here because it relates to all of this. CMD is command text box. CMD out is output text. It's output span for error messages. Game master will call data model methods to trigger state changes. Command processor will parse text commands from command text box and pass command keywords to game master, which result in the proper call to the data model. Invalid commands will merely trigger messages to be output into command out. To trigger state changes, and also call refresh method of display, refresh method of DD to update display. Okay. CMD is the command text box. CMD out is output span for error messages. Game master will call data model methods to trigger state changes, and also call refresh method of DD to update display. Command processor will parse text commands from command text box and pass command keywords to game master, which will result in the proper call to the data model. Invalid commands will merely trigger messages to be output into CMD out. Okay. That's what I'm thinking right now. I think that gives me a good place to go from, because I gotta take a break here. Not in the least because my daughter is actively trying to break in to get to her toy box that's in here next to me. And she's gonna break the doorknob. So, yeah, so I am going to take a break, and I will try to come back for another jam at it real quick, though. I am going to push to GitHub. I'm going to sketch out input handling ready to move forward. Next is to implement commands in command processor. See comments at line 113 of cards.html for thought, for thinking. Now in this commit for what I'm thinking at this point, just for documentation purposes. Input scheme setup. Sketched out. Alright. There we go. Commit that and push it. And now I'll stretch and be right back. Hopefully.